So have you ever noticed how easy it is to stay hooked on games, whether it be Wordle, fitness apps, or those silly mobile games with levels and streaks? That's because they make progress feel exciting. You always know the next step, and even small wins feel like a big deal. Now imagine if your finances worked the exact same way. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how you can gamify your money, how to make saving, paying off debt, and staying on track actually feel fun and motivating, and even, should I say, addicting at times. Because let's face it, when money feels like a grind, it's easy to give up. But when it feels like a game, you want to win. That's when things start to change. Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. My name is Brad Nelson, founder of Debt Free Dad. I paid off about $45,000 of debt. I've been debt free now for more than 12 years. I've also been fortunate to help thousands of other people save and pay off tens of millions of dollars with the work that we do here at Debt Free Dad.
And my name is Amber Taylor, and my husband and I paid off $54,000 in debt in just 20 months. And we've been living debt free outside of our mortgage since 2018.
And I'm Katie Hatfield, and I am still on my journey to debt freedom. And in the last 7 years, on a single income, I have paid off over $224,619 in debt and saved a whole lot more.
I love it.
My name is Chris Hawkins, and I and my wife started our journey back in 2005. And by 2008, we had paid off just under $100,000 worth of debt. And we've been debt free, except for our house, ever since.
And again, after listening to this episode, if you are ready to take things to the next level, you want to break free from living paycheck to paycheck, you want to reduce financial stress, you want to build more savings, finally pay off some debt for good. But again, maybe you're not quite sure where to get started. We've created some incredible free resources here for you here at Debt Free Dad, and we'll be sharing some details about some of those later on in today's episode. So guys, today we're talking all about gamification. And I love this because a lot of people, I think they miss the power of doing this. They miss the power of tracking, gamifying their money. We've talked about it a lot on this podcast. It's something that we put inside our membership roots because it takes the boringness, or at least a lot of the boringness, out of your finances, and it makes it fun, right? And I think it taps in, obviously, to the psychological side of our brains, which are wired for things like rewards, streaks, leveling up, and then progress. Like we mentioned, these games that you play on your phone or your tablet. I've got one. It's like a little block game. In fact, my daughter downloaded it. I don't really play it, but I've played it with her, and all of a sudden I'm addicted to it, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm winning. It throws out confetti when I get to a new level, and it makes a new noise. And it psychologically, again, it makes you want to keep going and keep playing. And you can kind of do a lot of the same types of things with your finances as well.
When we were getting out of debt, like I was making, before Brad, you put out your planner and you put out the game board and stuff like that in Roots. But I was making my own trackers where we were coloring in when we would pay something off, and we would celebrate that every time we did that. And then we even did it for savings when we started saving for our house. And it got addicting where we were like, oh my gosh, I need to color the next box. How do I get there? How fast can I do it? What else can I do? How else can I get this money? And we were just like pushing through it so that we could just color in these boxes. And as silly and simple as it sounds, it made a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing you gotta keep in mind too is that this is why, like, credit card companies, or even the credit score, so to speak, is so prevalent, why it's so popular. You look at credit card points and rewards, these companies are using gamification, I guess you could say, against you in a way, but to encourage you to play the game, right? Play the rewards game, play the points game, the credit score. Oh, how do I get the best credit score? What are the ways? It makes it a game. It makes it fun. That's why people focus on those types of things.
Yeah, I fell for that because my insurance company offered a banking credit card, and they're like, well, if you pay your insurance premium using this credit card, you'll get 3% back. But then it took me several years to figure out, but I'm paying 19 plus interest, like percentage wise. I'm not making anything back. I am just losing money left over right with interest. So I fell for that. But when I joined Roots, I was very excited about the snowball stickers. And I'm like, okay, how many balls can I be throwing this week?
Yeah, and we tell people that all the time. When you get in Roots, we send you if you join, we send you a membership kit. And the membership kit comes with all these little cool trackers, stickers, and all that stuff. And we don't send it because it's cute. We send it because it's a game. We want to make it a game. We want to make it fun, right? Because in most cases, a lot of the stuff that we talk about on this podcast, it isn't fun. It isn't sexy. It isn't exciting every day. But like Katie said, it's something as simple as peeling off a sticker and sticking it on your tracker. It gives you a little boost, right? Like, we're accomplishing something, we're doing something. It's that emotional trigger, not necessarily always just about the dollars and the cents and the interest rates, but it's just getting that little bonus, right? And again, making it a game.
The topic of today's episode is probably, I think, for me personally, now my wife would probably disagree with this. I've played sports since I was 5 years old, right? And, football, baseball, ended up playing, high school football and baseball, wrestled, played college football. So everything was a competition for me. Everything was about gaining more points than the other team, right? If you get more points than the other team, you win. But then I started thinking about my debt, and I'm like, good gracious, that's $100,000 worth of debt or just under it. That's a lot of money. And then I got to thinking about, well, how can I gamify this? And this was long before there was a term that I'd ever heard called gamification. And for me, it became, okay, if I could find a way to get $1 and pay off $1 worth of debt, that's like a point. But then you go, well, there's still $100,000 worth of points they've got to come up with. It doesn't change the numbers, right? So for me, I started thinking, all right, well, how can I come up with $100? $100 seems much more manageable than $100,000. And if I could come up with $100 once, I can come up with $100 twice. And if I can do it twice, I can do it 3 times. And that became the game for me. And so I treated it as I needed 100,000 points, but I needed to get them, in football, you get 6 points at a time. If you score a touchdown, if you get a field goal, you get 3 points.
Right.
If you get a basket in basketball, it's 2 points. So for me, it was just a matter of how can I come up with $100? And that's sort of how I gamified things, because I looked at it like I've just got to find 1,000 ways to come up with $100. You still think about it, that's a lot. But at least 100 seems manageable. 1,000 seems manageable. And that to me is how I gamified it. And so it became, how can I come up with an extra $50 or an extra $100 or an extra $20? Because it was all about getting the next 100, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And that became the game within itself. And so my competition became myself. Right. I wasn't competing against my wife. I wasn't competing against the neighbor. I wasn't competing against my brother or anybody else. And it was a new kind of game for me. And it was very interesting. It became a challenge for myself to beat myself.
Yeah.
All right. How fast can I come up with the next $100? And I looked anywhere and everywhere. I became very creative. I learned how to do a shopping list for the grocery store and put down only the things that we absolutely needed, an estimate next to it as to how much it was going to cost. And I went to the grocery store with just enough money to make sure I could cover my list, so that I knew that I would have money left over in my food budget or my food envelope at the end of the pay period. All kinds of ways. I mentioned on a podcast episode recently, I made my own laundry detergent for a while. That was part of the game. Now, people probably laugh at that and go, oh my gosh, I would never go to that level.
I laughed at it.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you every stretch between work and home where there was a half a mile of downhill that I could put my car in neutral and let it roll down the hill so that I could save money on gas. I mean, when I never went out to do one thing, I never went out to do 2 things. I had to make sure that I was doing 3 or more things to make it worthwhile going to get, to spend the money on the gas. Now, I know that seems extreme, but that was the game that I was playing against myself. And I don't think people have to go to that extreme per se, but if you can break it down into, you've heard me say this before, Brad, maybe get a picture of some goal that you have in life and spend $20 to have a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle made. There's custom jigsaw puzzle places online. Let them send you a 1,000-piece puzzle and assign a dollar value to each piece. And every time you pay off, let's say it's $10, you get to put another piece of the puzzle together. And you get to visually see, very much like a debt snowball, except for the opposite. The debt snowball, you're marking stuff off the list. Here, you're seeing more of your vision become available. There's so many ways to gamify. I know that in your debt-free planner, you've got some gamification tools there, I think, as well. But it was the number one key for me because it made it challenging, it made it fun, and it made it competitive. And now for the first time in my life, I was competing against myself. Now I know that's long-winded, but hopefully that helps.
No, for sure. I think, well, the key thing there, I think, is for a lot of people is like when you sit back, like Katie, you could probably talk to this. I mean, you paid off what, over $220,000 now. But if you were to go back on day one and look at that as a whole, overwhelming. Like, how the heck am I ever going to pay all that off? But when you break it down into much smaller pieces, and like Chris, you mentioned breaking it down, like just break it down to like $100 equals a point, or whatever dollar value you want to account. Looking at $100 versus $220,000 is much more manageable. Like, it's achievable. I can pay off the next $100, or we can find a way to get another $100. So I think that in itself creates just a lot more momentum and motivation and hope, rather than looking at your entire situation. Or when you get that credit card bill and it's $8,000 balance. I can remember one that I had. It was just like, how the heck am I ever going to pay this all off? But again, if you break it down into smaller pieces, it becomes much more manageable.
Yeah, I definitely had to break it down because I think my biggest credit card at the time was like around $8,000 or something. I'm like, there is no way I'm ever going to get that paid off. But if I could do the smaller credit cards balances, because I was one of those, a 0% interest offer came up, I'm just going to transfer it to this card and I know I'll pay it off before the grace period and whatever. And yeah, that never happened. So I had all these credit cards and all these minimum payments due. So it was a lot. So I did a lot of the minute things like Chris did, although I tried to do laundry in my bathtub, and there's no amount of wringing out clothes that will ever get them dry like a dryer. So my apartment at the time smelled like a laundromat, and I had clothes just hanging everywhere. I don't recommend that as far as it goes. But I used a lot of apps for coupons, for money off if you turn in your receipts, and the Gas Buddy app to make sure what's the least expensive gas in the area, so I can drive straight to the one that's the lowest price right now, and what's got a deal with 16 cents off a gallon versus the regular 3 to 5 cents. So yeah, every single one of those things adds up, especially in the beginning where you're like, all right, I just saved like $1.68 on gas, I'll take it. And it really does get addicting, because now I'm like, all right, my paycheck is deposited in my account, let's pay the bills. And before be like, I hope this doesn't clear before my paycheck hits the account.
Right.
Also the queen of overdraft fees back then. So yeah, every little thing helps. Whatever it makes sense in your mind to have as a win, you just gotta kind of go with all those little dopamine hits along the way.
Yeah, so she said something that it triggered something that I did. I couldn't wait to get paid. Why? Because I knew it meant a chance to get some more points.
Yeah.
Right. So the payday became a very different day of the month. It had a totally different meaning. It's like, oh boy, now I get to pay off more debt. Yes. And you're looking at that debt snowball going, how close am I to that next one? And then you get within a couple hundred points. You're like, all right, now it's serious. I got to get top of my game. What other unique ways can I come up with? Because I don't want that lingering around the next month.
Yeah.
I want to find the money.
People are probably listening to this and going, that doesn't sound fun at all.
It is. I'm telling you, it can be. At least it was for me.
But I could relate to you completely, because I did the same thing when I was paying off my debt. It was like, it was payday, money was coming into the account. I'm like, what am I paying now? Because this is getting fun.
Yeah. I can't say I ever did my laundry in my bathtub, though.
No, that didn't sound fun to me. No.
I had two people on either end of a pair of jeans, just like squeezing as hard as we could to get the water out. It doesn't
but you can laugh all you want, but how much less debt do you have now? 220 something thousand dollars?
224,000 plus.
Yep.
So.
It works.
At the end of the day, we can be laughing, but you're going to look at that as that's what it took to get there.
That's right. Well, and I think that's the thing. I was going to bring up my next topic. You guys kind of took it right out of my mouth. Is it encourages you to challenge yourself and come up with ways to stretch it, make it better, right? And you guys have all said some great, putting it in neutral downhill.
I've done that.
Some great ways. But it is. It becomes addicting. You become addicted to the wins. You become addicted to getting that next point. And that's why it's so important. I think that, again, this is why I wanted to make this podcast episode, because there's so many people who just miss the power of tracking and gamifying, and it can provide so much motivation and to help you start tackling it. It's amazing. But yeah, any other weird things though? So we got laundry in the bathtub, putting in neutral, going downhill. Any, Amber, you got any?
No, but what I want to share is actually a savings one that we had members doing in Roots, where him and his wife would each have like this savings goal.
Oh yeah, Daniel and Lori. I remember.
Yes.
I remember
And
this.
they, like you have $40 this week, I have $40 this week. And it was just for their, if we want to stop at the store and buy something, just the fun money, right? And they would literally compete until the end of the week, and they would come back and go, how much money do you have left? And it was just a friendly, fun competition. But whoever had the most won for bragging rights. And what they did with that money after was just they put it into savings.
Yeah.
And because we didn't spend it, so let's reward ourselves and add it to our savings. And I thought that that was really cool and a great way to just gamify what they were trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Listen, I started cutting my own hair for a while. I mean, I do it. I do it again now because I have so little of it.
Right.
But at the time when I did get my hair cut, it was probably once every 3 or 4 months, because less often to the barbershop, the less money you spend. But eventually it's like, oh, I can buy this $20 pair of clippers over here and just do it myself. It's not the greatest hairdo in the world. Now, again, I have very little hair, so I'm back to doing it, but for a totally different reason. I could probably think of 1,000 things, some little, some small, that I did just to save a few bucks here and there, but it worked.
Yeah. And sometimes, like for me, I picked the obvious one. I just worked more. I put in as many hours as I could and tried to earn the bonuses that the current, the employer that I was working with. I just tried to do everything I could just to make extra money. And again, like you guys said, once it's payday, it's like it just meant that I got to pay off that much more debt. And so I can't think of anything crazy that I think what you guys mentioned is so fun. I love it. But it does. It challenges you. It gets you to open your mind up a little bit more and saying, what else could we do? What else could we do to push the pedal down just a little bit more? And again, to challenge yourself. I think the other thing too, Amber, you mentioned with Daniel and Lori and their story, is just the power of just having competition too. And not in a bad way competition, not looking at someone like I want to be better than them. But I think this is one of the cool parts that comes from being in a community like we've built in Roots, is that you're seeing other people get these great wins, and you want to get those great wins. It encourages you to think outside the box and do things. That's one of the reasons why we talk about people's wins on this podcast. We're a big proponent of talking about the wins inside Roots, because it's great to celebrate them, but it also gives other people ideas of things that they could do, things that they could improve on, question themselves, challenge themselves based on what other people are doing. So that some of that friendly competition can go a long way.
I'd like to put this out there, Brad. I suspect that Katie and I are not the only two to do some very, very weird things.
No question. The other part about this whole gamification is also the importance of rewarding yourself too. Now, did you guys ever have or give yourself little rewards? For me, it was always like a treat of going out to eat. And because I love doing that. I had to cut it out like a lot. Almost when I first started, I had to cut it out completely because I didn't have any money. But for me, once I started getting those wins, once I started paying off debt, once I started being able to save money, going out to eat, going back and going to the places that I love to go was just, you appreciated it more, you loved it more, and it just felt so much better. It was a reward. I've earned it.
I personally was not very much of a reward myself until the game is finished. But again, I'm a little more hardcore. I get that. And that's the danger perhaps for some of you out there. If you find yourself doing too much and it means that you're going to stop doing what you're doing, then back off a little bit. You've got to play your game and you've got to play it with your rules and the way that you want to do it. But for me, the end goal was to get out of debt. And that became the only reward that I could focus on. But again, I'm probably ultra competitive, so I'm probably not a good person to ask.
We rewarded ourselves with activities. If it was a trip or just going out to eat, kind of like you, Brad. But I was at a point where I was like, we're going to pay off this debt in 13 months. And eventually we got burnt out a little bit. And I was like, nah, we can't do this. Forget this. So we rewarded ourselves. Like once we hit certain milestone, we paid for a trip and that kind of thing. So we just spanned it out a little bit more. But that helped us a lot.
And I don't go out to eat unless I can walk there and pick it up myself. So I don't ever do delivery fees or DoorDash or any of those kind of where you're already paying more for the food, plus the tip, plus the delivery, plus everything else. So I'm like, if I'm going out to eat, I have to be able to walk there, and the closest place is 1.5 miles round trip. So I'm burning the calories, but also rewarding myself with the dining out, just making it a little more of a stretch for myself.
Yeah. All right, guys, if you are ready to break free from living paycheck to paycheck, you want to reduce financial stress, build a savings, and finally pay off your debt for good. But again, maybe you're not sure where to get started. Don't worry. We've got you covered. Simplify My Money is sent to you each and every Sunday to your email. It is your step-by-step roadmap to better financial control, and you're also going to learn some easy-to-follow strategies to manage your money effectively. Stress-free money decisions that are going to help you simplify your financial life with proven tips that actually work for normal people. And you're going to gain the tools and confidence to tackle your financial goals head on. You can sign up for Simplify My Money by clicking the link at the top of the show notes. Thanks for joining us on today's show, and we will see you guys on the next episode.